for Al and has more.
We're still looking at some of the clouds working in. Some of that gusty wind is starting to work in as well as this storm tries to move a little farther to the north and west. Keep in mind, it still has winds at 70 miles per hour right now. So most of the effects of the rain will be felt across Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard effects.
Still causing some problems out there.
Yes.
Dylan, thank you very much. With the election.
With the rest of our forecast today.
We've got west. We're actually enjoying some really nice weather. We are looking at sunshine today from Seattle through Oregon right down into California. We do have some mountain snow likely across parts of the higher elevations of Montana above 6,500 feet. But temperature wise, it's actually going to be pretty nice. Seattle about 66 with some clouds, but Oregon about Medford, Oregon about 81 degrees. San Francisco 65. It is going to be a little cooler than average, especially back through the northern Rockies where temperatures could be about 10 to 15 degrees below average. Elsewhere today across the country, though, besides that mountain snow, we do have this cold front. This is going to trigger a slight risk of stronger storms, especially in Minneapolis, St. Paul, also down into Sioux City. We are looking at the chance of seeing isolated tornadoes, large hail, damaging wind gusts, and of course your torrential downpours too. It is starting to heat up right through the middle of the country with temperatures above average in the 80s and lower 90s. Some thunderstorms today likely along the Gulf Coast. We could see some heavier downpours down near most of southern Louisiana. Also southern Florida will likely see some of that heavier rain. In the northeast, we still have Hermine just sitting out over the water. So even if the sun is shining in Maryland and Delaware, rip currents are still going to be very dangerous. So keep an eye out in the water, and then we'll see some rain across most of southeastern Massachusetts. That's a look at the weather across the country. Your local forecast is coming up in the next 30 seconds.
Let's turn now and get a check of the weather from Dylan in this morning for Al.
Actually, up near Minneapolis, St. Paul, we've got some heavy rain moving through this morning. That could create some delays at the airport early on, and then we'll get a break, and then we could see more storms redevelop later on this afternoon. We have this slight risk area that includes Sioux Falls, also includes Minneapolis, St. Paul, up into Duluth. Large hail, damaging winds, those are our biggest threats, but we can't rule out an isolated tornado as long as that cold front is moving eastward. And you can see it's not moving eastward very quickly. Even as we go into Tuesday, it's still lingering around the upper Midwest, so we're looking at more strong storms possible tomorrow as well, and also some torrential downpours with some of these storms that are popping up. We could end up in and around Green Bay with as much as 4 inches of rain. It could come down in a short period of time if you just happen to get stuck under one of those storm cells. So something to keep in mind through the day today. It is hot a little farther south, 80s and 90s, and it's also going to be in the close to 90-degree range, especially through the Ohio River Valley. Some heavier storms possible today down along the Gulf Coast and also into southern Florida. The West Coast looks fairly quiet. Temperatures today in the 60s and 70s. Let's look at the weather across the country. Now here's a peek out your window. Thanks, Willie. Literally just paid full price for a mattress, so not feeling good about that. At Hermine now, which is still out over the water and will remain out over the water. It is going to produce more coastal effects than rain, although we are starting to see the cloudiness thicken up, especially across southern Massachusetts. Now, we are going to see some rain. Nantucket has the best chance of heavier rain. That stretches into Martha's Vineyard through Cape Cod as well. But as far as New York City and most of Connecticut, even most of Rhode Island, you're not going to see a whole lot of rain with this system. Winds are still up to 70 miles per hour, though, and as it continues on this northwestward track, as it gets closer to land, we are still looking at those dangerous rip currents, also some beach erosion because of the rough surf. There's still the possibility that we could end up with a 1 to up to 3 foot storm surge, especially the closer you are to the center of that storm. So that's why the water is more of an issue than actually the rain falling from the sky. Now let's take a look at what's going on across the rest of the country. A huge ridge in the jet stream is allowing temperatures to warm up quite a bit across the eastern half of the country. Out in the Pacific Northwest, though, temperatures are actually running about 10 to 20 degrees below average, and even across the higher elevations across Montana, we could see above 6,500 feet some snow. That's how cold it is out that way. But it is anything but cold across Indianapolis. By Wednesday, we're topping out around 90 degrees. Raleigh's in the lower 90s. New York City will be in the 90s by the time we get to Thursday. Atlanta stays hot in the 90s too. And down in Jacksonville, upper 80s and lower 90s. Slight risk of stronger storms today through the upper Midwest, especially Minneapolis, St. Paul. Today and again tomorrow, large hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes are possible. So keep an eye out to the sky out that way, and also the heavy rain too. Let's look at the weather across the country. Now here's a peek out your window.
Children, and it's your birthday? Today's my birthday, yeah, 75. Look at segment with you on your advice. Well, happy birthday.
And that's your latest forecast. Willie?
All right.